So, Kyle Larson's win yesterday in the Xfinity Series race at Bristol, once again the old debate on whether or not should Cup drivers be allowed to race in the Xfinity and Truck Series has popped up again. I'll get my thoughts on that momentarily, but as a reminder, if this is your first time watching one of these videos, welcome one and all. My name is Steven. And I'll give my thoughts on NASCAR and more. Before we get started, don't forget, comment down below, like the video, subscribe to this channel for more content like this, and so etc, etc, etc. And before I forget, Chandler Smith got for the first win of the first. And before I forget, Chandler Smith got for their first win in the Truck Series this season, Friday night as well, which prevented Larson for completing the triple, as it were. So, with those two little bit of nuggets out of the way, let's get into it. Should Cup drivers be allowed to race in Xfinity and Truck Series? Now, here's the problem. It's not like this has been anything new. In fact, since when both series began, this was the thing. In fact, I can't recall a single season at all that did not have at least one Cup driver start a race in either Xfinity or Truck Series. Now, obviously, NASCAR has done what is fair share to make the playing field more level, by having the Cup drivers can't compete for championships or run the full season, like they used to in the past. So we'll give NASCAR credit in that regard. But, for some fans, that's not enough. What they want is an outright ban of drivers in the Cup Series not to race in Xfinity or trucks. Even though, like I said, that's been the bread and butter of both series since day one. And here's the thing, I get the frustration of seeing a Cup driver in the field and winning the race. I get the frustration regarding that. But, and there is a but here, at the same time, if Cup drivers win every time they race in Xfinity and or trucks, then how come, for example, Christopher Bell didn't win at Darlington? Or when you had 100 drivers other than Larson riding the trucks, racing the truck race, for example. See what I'm saying, folks? Now, personally, because how spring Martinsville race and the one-time championship race at Phoenix in the Truck Series was handled, they need to have Cup drivers to race in the series. Not every week, no, but at the very least, have the Cup drivers attend the drivers' meeting to give advice to the younger drivers, saying, hey, this style of racing is not allowed. If you're racing like this, then there's a good chance you won't go to the Cup Series. Now, that being said, even if you do decide to ban the Cup drivers from competing altogether, Will that be enough to satisfy people who don't want to see the Cup drivers racing Xfinity and trucks? More to the point, what will be next? Ban the Xfinity drivers to go back to the Truck Series? At least on a part-time basis. Ban truck drivers to race in ARCA part-time? Where will it end? What about the owners? Again, I ask, where will it end? I mean, you can't just ban the Cup drivers and call it and say that's that. Because people are still going to complain either way. They want more done, just trying to make things quote-unquote more fair for the trucks and Xfinity Series regulars. And to an extent, like I said, I get it. But for some, it's not enough. And to be honest, I'm not sure if it will be enough to satisfy those who keep fussing about it. Sure, you could have Allgaier and Crafton be the mentors for the upcoming drivers as well. As far as the series regulars go, going to have them step up to be the leaders of their respective series and say, hey, don't do this, don't do that. But speaking of Allgaier, since he did run a couple of years full-time in the Cup Series, shouldn't he not be allowed to return to the Xfinity Series? Because what about former Cup drivers? Are you going to ban them too? See what I'm saying? If you ban Cup drivers for racing Xfinity and Truck Series, then what's next you want to get rid of? Because you're not going to satisfy everybody. And if you start banning driver A and driver B, then what are you going to ban next? Because is banning the Cup drivers enough to satisfy you, or do you want more to make it more fair? And yes, I have seen the arguments compare NFL players and going down to the college level. But you see, there's a problem with that. And the problem is that football and racing are two completely different sports. The closest thing you can compare to is Major League Baseball with the minor Major League Baseball systems. We do have players that can go back down to the minor leagues, but could return to the major leagues. That's probably the closest sport you can compare the Xfinity and Truck Series to these days. But yeah, I do get the frustration and all, don't get me wrong. And it can be frustrating. But ultimately, if this was an issue back then how come NASCAR never didn't do anything about it until recently? If the drivers hated it as this much, because let's face it, they don't. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that the drivers did complain to NASCAR about this. Why is it taking NASCAR this long to do something? Again, I know the drivers didn't complain about it, but I'm just saying that for the sake of argument, if they did, that's what fans need to understand. The drivers are perfectly fine with having the Cup drivers race in their series, because it can help them learn to become better drivers. Let's give them bragging rights if they do beat the Cup drivers that weekend. Plus the possibility of a Cup Series owner taking a chance on that driver one day. Because do you honestly think that if there was any... do you honestly think that if there was no Cup drivers in trucks or Xfinity, that a Rick Hendrick Richard Childress, Joe Gibbs, or Archer Penske could take a chance on an up-and-coming driver to race in Cup one day, without them seeing what they could do against a Cup driver? As of that, realistically, and I'm talking about a full season without a Cup driver in the field, not just the majority of the season. Probably not. And again, I have to ask, if you want to ban the Cup drivers, okay. Then are you going to go ban the Xfinity drivers to race in trucks? Are you going to ban the truck drivers to race in ARCA? Will you ban former Cup drivers to race back in a Lord Show series? And what about the owners? You want to ban them too? Where would it end? That's all I'm asking, folks. If you ban Cup drivers, where will the ban end? So that way it will satisfy everybody. Because you're not going to satisfy everybody, no matter what you do. So, like it or not, you just got to deal with it. You can complain and say you don't like it, but unless you got a realistic solution to the problem at hand, which for the record doesn't exist, then I suggest you stay out of it. Or maybe send your concerns to NASCAR instead of complaining about it on social media. I'm not trying to be mean or hateful out there, folks. I'm just being realistic. I mean, if you got an idea that will satisfy, the drivers, the fans, the sponsors, and so forth, regarding Cup drivers in the Xfinity and Truck Series, then okay, let's hear it. And remember, this solution has to work for everybody, not just the majority of people. Because like I said, the drivers have no problem with this. Some of the fans sadly do, and that's the problem. These fans who complain, rather just do what's not best for the drivers, but do what's best for themselves. And unfortunately, that can't work anymore. Gotta take into account everything. Drivers, sponsors, the media, so forth. It's not black and white anymore like it used to. So the next time, before you complain about having Cup drivers racing trucks in Xfinity, if you so happen to watch this video, think about it. Realistically, what is the solution to this quote-unquote problem that will satisfy everyone? Satisfy the drivers, NASCAR, the team owners, the media, and the fans. Not just one group of people. Anyway, think about it. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye, folks.